Hello everyone, my name is Prabjot Kaur and today I'll be presenting my critical analysis of the picture book Julian is a Mermaid by Jessica Love. Throughout this presentation, I will examine how this groundbreaking text challenges gender stereotype through intersectional representation. This analysis also explores how this book challenges stereotypes and promotes inclusion through intersectionality and anti-bias education and social justice theories. It also examines how educators can use this text to foster children's sense of identity and belonging, aligning with the EYLF and national quality standard. Overview of the book. This book is based on the Julian, which is an Afro-Latinx boy, and he sees three glamorous women on the subway and imagine himself as a mermaid. When he get home with his mother, Bula, Julian creates his own mermaid costume using household items such as curtains and plants. This moment in this story comes when Abela discovers him, and rather than expressing disappointment or trying to correct him, she wordlessly add her own necklace into his costumes. Then together they go to Coney Island Mermaid Parade, where Julian can be of his authentic self in celebrating community. This book has won significant recognition, including the Stonewall Book Award in 2019 for exceptional LGBTQ plus representation. But beyond these awards, this text represents what Adam and Barrett Plow call counter storytelling. In their 2020 research, they found that 85% of the books in Australians' ECE settings features white, middle class, traditional families, and this sends powerful implicit message about whose life and experience are valued. Julian is a Mermaid directly challenges this monoculture dominance, as Kennedy argues in her 2021 article. Social justice in early childhood education is more important than ever educators have responsibility. Now I will examine how this book represents cultural and diversity through the lens of intersectionality. Crenshaw's 1991 framework of intersectionality shows that Julian's identity exists at multiple marginal intersections: his race, his gender expression, and his family structures. This cannot be understood in isolation because they intersect to create unique experiences. Let's look at the each intersection. First is racial identity. So this is significant because Julian is depicted as Afro-Latinx child with brown skin and textured hair, and this is a significant because it challenges the assumption that LGBTQ plus inclusive narrative only reflect white middle class experience. As McNaughton argues in 2003, race and gender cannot be separated in child's identity formation; they shape each other. Second is the gender expression. In this book, the centered part is gender creative exploration of femininity, and it is impacted by normalizing the diverse expression beyond binaries. According to the third, which is family structure. So, family structure, Abula is Julian's primary caregiver, representing an intergenerational grandmother-led family. This validates diverse family configuration that are often invisible in children's literature. Both writing in 2008 reframes family diversity as a cultural wealth rather than deficit. Let's discuss all the aspect which is centered and which is marginal. In the centered part, we can see that children of color exploring gender, grandmother-grandchild relationship, imagination as cultural wealth, body diversity and celebration are centered. So what is marginal in this book? Traditional gender confronting narratives, white nuclear family defaults, boys will be boys messaging, adult correction narratives. Now I will discuss how this book highlights, reinforces, or disrupts stereotypes through its language, imaginary, and narrative. I'm going to argue that this text powerfully disrupts gender stereotypes through both what is shown and what it refuses to say. First, let's look at the stereotypes being challenged. The stereotype that boys do not wear dresses is destructive through Julian's joyful costume creation. There is no shame or hesitation. The stereotype that boys should not be interested in beauty and adornment is challenged because mermaids, makeups, and jewelries are celebrated without any justification needed. The stereotype that older generation won't accept gender creativity is completely overturned by Abila's immediate wordless acceptance. And the assumption that gender non-conformity requires explanation or correction is distributed through the book visual storytelling approach. There is no labeling, no pathological lodging, and no explaining needed. Now, how does this disruption actually occur? Dummins, Sparks, and Edwards, in their 2020 framework on anti-bias education, argue that we can challenge stereotypes not uh, confronting bias directly, but by presenting alternative realities where diversity simply exists without justification. So the second, how this disruption occurs is no punishment narrative. There is a celebration over tolerance, which is depicted by public parade, and imagination validated as a legitimate. So what are the implicit messages children receive from this book could be: I can be authentic and still be loved. Adults will celebrate and not change me. Multiple ways to express gender, and communities exist where I belong. So this is represented by theoretical framework of Lemon, Sparks, and Edwards in 2020. Anti-bias education challenges stereotypes by presenting alternative realities where diversity exists without justification. This book provides opportunities for equity and inclusion, and we will discuss all this in detail. This book supports equity through affirming gender diversity as legitimate. It also models intergenerational relationship and allyship. It also include community celebration, which is parade is equal to belonging. It also has a visual accessibility for diverse learners and validating diverse family cultures. However, there are certain critical limitations which it doesn't name gender identity. Educators must facilitate discussion on it. There is no Spanish text despite Latinx representation. This is idealized family response, not all having affirmative caregivers. Class access assumptions, which is parade participation requires resources. Not everyone can go to parades directly and represent themselves. This also requires educator training and confidence to build have such confidence. Equitable learning experience supported by identity development, safe exploration, critical thinking about fairness and norms, empathy building across differences. How this is represented by theoretical framework, which is represented by Bliss in 2009. Text help children question gender norms safely. Both 2008 promote inclusive representation, build empathy. And Kennedy in 2021 represents social justice requires proactive engagement, not passive exposure. Now I will examine how this text aligns with strength-based approaches to children, families, and communities. This is central to culturally responsive pedagogies and anti-bias education. Child strength highlighted are creativity, self-awareness, imagination, and courage. Family strengths are culture, wisdom, emotional intelligence, unconditional acceptance, and active information. And community strengths are public celebration of diversity, inclusive space where people belong, and collective joy in difference, which is represented by these three researchers in their own work, which is both 2008, Derman, Sparks, and Edwards, and McNaughton in 2003. How educators can translate this analysis into a practice will be discussed in this all five evidence-based strategies. The first will be create gender-inclusive environment where there should not be any stereotype materials. There should be a dressing up clothes where everyone can wear it. There is inclusive language for children, not for boys and girls, which is not a stereotype. And we second strategies we can use is facilitate political conversation. Third would be partner authentically with the families, share book proactively at orientation, maintain affirming space for all children. Strength-based approaches has a fourth and fifth strategies, which I'll be discuss in this slide. Extended learning through play, which is dramatic play with costume materials. We can use self-portrait art, how I see myself. And the fifth one will be proactive based education, which is represented by Kennedy in 2021. Don't wait for problems. We can teach intentionally, create plan experiences about diversity. This also links with EYLF 2.0, which is outcome 1, which is identity, outcome 2, which is community, and outcome 5, which is communication, and National Quality Standard Framework 1.3, planning, 5.1, respectful relationship, and 6.1 family partnership, and 7.1 which is governance. Using intersectionality, Julian's overlapping identities shape his experience, which is described by Crenshaw's 1991. Anti-bias education framework emphasizes teaching children to recognize and challenge stereotypes, which is demonstrated by Dermans, Sparks, and Edward in 2020. Social justice approaches encourage reflection on equity, fairness, and societal norms, highlighting literature as a tool for fostering inclusive, empathic classroom environment, which is described by Boggett in 2008 and Bliss in 2009, respectively. So now I will conclude my presentation. Throughout this analysis, I have demonstrated that Julianism mermaid centers intersectional identities at margins of race, gender expression, and family structure. It disrupts gender stereotypes through affirmative celebratory narrative rather than a problem-focused one. It models intergenerational, L-shaped, unconditional acceptance. It also provides concrete pedagogical opportunities for fostering inclusion, and it aligns directly with our EYLF and National Quality Standard Framework, showing that inclusive practice isn't optional, it is a fundamental to quality education. This research also constantly show that LGBT plus youth, including gender diverse children, face disappropriate mental health challenges, often stemming from lack of information and representation. Books like Julian's Story can literally save lives by validating children's identity and showing them that affirming adults and communities exist. For all children, texts like this build empathy and critical thinking. They model what affirming responses look like, and they create the foundation for truly inclusive communities. Here are the all references which I have used in my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.